Now we're going to do the air cleaner and carburetor. Air cleaner, super easy. These 5 or 4 bolts in my case, I might be missing one. And there's a bracket in here that's 1 bolt, and then 3 other bolts. It's like less than 10 altogether. Pop this thing off, and then you take these 2 breather bolts out, pop this whole aluminum housing out of the carb. The carb is a different story. It's not a hard thing to do. It's just a lot of little shit you got to do to get there. But you'll see, I'll explain as I go. It's not, again, not super hard. It's just easy. Alright, the air cleaner's off. Like I said, just a few bolts. It's not hard to do. These are the breather bolts. I don't know what these exact rubber tubes are called, but these, you gotta just fucking yank on them. Get them off of there. Kind of a bitch. Yeah, like that. Just fucking yank it. It's kind of hard with greasy ass fingers. There you go. And then in here, there's 2 bolts. These are the actual breather bolts that go into the heads that recirculate air back into the carb. It's a fucking stupid system. And I've been meaning to do a delete kit for this, or just make one. You can make one out of some tubing and a filter. It's not a big thing, I just haven't done it. Yeah, you take these 3 posts off. This is what actually holds the air filter on. And you take these 2 bolts out and this whole thing will come off, this big aluminum housing. And then that's pretty much all there is for the air cleaner. And then you're onto the carb. Two breather bolts are 7/16. You will need a little bit deeper of a socket than this. This worked, but not very well. So I'd say a 7/16 deep well, you'd be good. And then these 3 posts right here were 1/2 inch. Like I said, this is all apart now, so this just comes right off. Now be careful. There are O-rings on here. Do not lose the O-rings. Maybe even replace them while you're in here. Who knows? But that's that. So the entire air cleaner is off, and there is a gasket on here. This gasket that connects to the carb, it's on the carb right here. I mean, you can replace it if you want. I did not too long ago, so I'm not going to this time. So, yeah. Everything on the carb has basically been disconnected. The only real thing holding this on right now is the friction rubber gasket that sits on the intake manifold. The first time I did this, I thought I was doing it wrong because it literally, you yank it off. There's no hose clamp, there's no nothing. You literally just pry the carburetor away from the intake manifold. Takes a little bit of pressure. This one's probably gonna be a little bit easier because I just had this thing apart not too long ago. And the only other thing you really need to disconnect are the throttle and idle cables over here on the right side. Just like adjusting your cables, you need to go up to your throttle, loosen them all the way up, get as much slack as you can, and then I have an ice pick that I use, and I get up underneath the cable and pry the barrels away from their housings on this throttle, actual throttle wheel on the carburetor. These cables are new, they're Barnett cables. They're pretty high quality, I really like them. So they're kind of a bitch to get in and out. My old Harley cables probably came out way too easy. They were very old and corroded. But yeah, the fuel line's already disconnected because we got the tank off. It was connected to the petcock. My choke is broken, so that's already disconnected. The vacuum line that was connected to the petcock is already disconnected as well because the petcock is obviously gone. So yeah, throttle and idle cables, get them out of the barrels out of their housings, and then just set them up here somewhere, zip tie them to your frame if you need to, and then pry this fucker out of here. It's gonna feel like you're doing it wrong, but you're not. Putting it back in is even weirder because you're literally just fucking smashing it in. Not smashing it, obviously, but you're just forcing it in there. With the tank off, it is going to be a lot easier to do, though. I'm going to be able to get more leverage. So, as you can see, changed clothes, different day. My battery died, so I had to stop last night, or yesterday. Basically, all I've done is loosened up throttle and throttle cable adjustments, got as much slack as I could out of them. And that is going to translate to here. Maybe. There we go. And these are the cables right here. See how this one's real loose? And those red barrels are what I was talking about not losing those. So basically what I'm going to do is take this screw right here, that Phillips head screw. That's the throttle position screw, basically. I'm going to loosen that all the way out, get as much slack as I can in this whole area. And then I'm going to take these cables off. And then that should be about it for the carburetor. It should come off pretty easily after that, like I said. The best thing I've found for taking these cables off is this. It's a little 90-degree pick. This thing would focus on it. It's not going to. But basically you get up underneath these cables and you can kind of pry them out without damaging them, bending them, or breaking them. It works fairly well. So as you can see, throttle cable's out. You can see the red barrel. And then in the back here, the idle cable is out as well. You can see it back there swinging. Do not lose those barrels. They do come off. And they are a motherfucker to find. So basically from here, you just pop these out of the top of the carb. Like so. And the back. Like so. This one should have a spring in it. Yeah, these Barnett cables, they don't have the plungers you can lose. The Harley ones have a little slot on the side of them and those fuckers fall out if you look at them wrong. There you go. Both cables out, throttle and idle cable. The idle cable, I think, is the one with the spring on it. It's the one that goes in the back. I do know that much. Get these up out of the way. Perfect. Okay, so everything on the carb has been disconnected. The fuel line is still connected to the carb, but it's disconnected from the petcock, obviously, because the gas tank's off. The choke is still connected to the carb, but it's disconnected from its housing on the other side of the engine. The vacuum line is disconnected from the petcock as well. So that's really all there is to it. And this is the part where I said it's going to feel like you're doing it wrong, but you're not. This thing has a rubber gasket that connects to the front of the intake manifold, and you literally just pry it off. Watch. See, it's coming. And a little twisting action. And there it is. Yeah. That's the carb. And like I said, this is the vacuum line that was on the petcock, the fuel line, and then the choke. I am going to be doing a choke relocation on here. It's a bracket from, I want to say CV Performance maybe, that relocates this long choke cable, or this long choke cable, to the underside of the carb, just to kind of clean everything up, because my choke bracket broke. But this is a mostly stock carb. I did get some new jets from CV Performance. I did rebuild this with a kit from CV Performance, as well as the easy mixed screw on the bottom, which has actually saved my ass on the road. Off, I am going to rejet this with the recommendations from CV Performance for the 95-inch with the cam. I think it was a number 200 main or pilot jet. and a number 50 main jet, or vice versa, I can't remember. But this is going to get rejetted, real easy to do. So yeah, carb is good. And this is that gasket I was talking about. It's just a rubber ring that sits on the intake manifold that the carb literally just squeezes in there and holds itself in place. Okay. So with that off, we are going to tackle the intake manifold. Again, stock intake manifold has a little wiring harness up here. This one's not hard to do. It's kind of a tight spot with the tank and the carburetor off. It's going to be kind of easy to do. But it's just these two Allen bolts here that go into the heads. And then on the other side, yeah, you can see the Allen bolt here. But the bracket has a hole or a slot in the back of it, so you just loosen it. You don't even have to take this one all the way out, and the bracket will pop off. So this won't be too bad. This won't be too hard to do. Like I said, it's kind of a tight spot, so. As you can see, I struggled there for a second, but this little elbow joint extender, that's what you need. The back ones are a lot tighter. I'm probably just going to use a regular L-shaped Allen wrench to get in there. It's a 1/4 inch because there's no way I'll be able to get in there with a socket. So we'll see what happens. I'll take a different approach here. I think I'm going to take this top engine mount off because I cannot get in here. Well, that's a fun noise. So top engine mount is going to come off. Should just be these 3 bolts here. I can worry about the stabilizer later. So yeah, let's do that. I got this bracket off. If you don't know what this is where the horn goes, this is where the choke goes, and these 2 bolts sat on the left and right jug, or head, and this bolt holds the top engine stabilizer in place. Well, I don't have a horn on this bike anymore, and I'm relocating my choke cable. So what I'm going to end up doing here is taking a grinder and cutting this whole thing off. And it'll clean this all up, and it'll make it look a lot better. So that's off, so I should be able to get these 2 stupid little bolts out of the way now. If you're sitting here wondering why is this taking so long, it's just 2 bolts. Let me show you. So remember, these are the ones, this is the manifold. This is that harness that had to be unplugged. These are these 2 bolts I'm trying to get out, and these are the ones with the slots in the back. Well, there is hardly any room for this Allen wrench to get in here. You can only turn it like 1/8 of a turn at a time. And that little bracket that I just took off that mounted here, here, and here was in the way. So I'm turning this thing just a little bit at a time. We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. Got all the bolts loosened. Jesus. All up in my face. Got all the bolts loosened. The front 2 are off. The back 2 are loosened with that slot. Check this out. Boom. There is your V-twin intake manifold. Now there are the 2 O-rings on the inside here. These are in pretty decent shape. Actually, this whole thing, other than being a little bit of that aluminum corrosion, is in pretty good shape. Now, I am going to get in here specifically on the inlet side with a die grinder and a carbide bit and hollow this out, sort of get some more airflow in there. Should help with just a little bit more power. Who knows? But yeah, there you go. There's the intake inlets right there and the heads. Yeah, we're getting there. Hey guys, I just got done editing the carb and intake manifold video. Sorry it's a little bit long. I mean, I'm looking at like 15 something minutes right now. But I wanted to not leave anything out, especially when it came to having to take the top engine mount off to get to the intake manifold. Because realistically that could be a problem that someone could run into. So, I mean, I'm just a dude in the garage fucking around with my bike, so I'm trying to get as much information as I can out there. But yeah, man, give me some more feedback. I got some good comments on the last video. Yeah, keep leaving me comments. Let me know what you guys think. When it comes to editing, let me know if you think there's anything I should cut out or put in, because I get a lot of content taking this stuff apart and I end up shrinking it down to somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. Yeah, a lot of good stuff coming. Getting all my stuff back from the machine shop soon, so this thing should be coming back together pretty soon. So still got a lot of video to edit though, so let me know what you guys think.